Who really started banditry in Nigeria? The answer might shock you. Forget everything you think you know, because we're about to peel back the layers on a story that has been shrouded in mystery and misinformation for decades. This isn't just about men with guns in the forest. This is a story of politics, betrayal, and a desperate struggle for survival that spiraled out of control. To understand the banditry crises of today, we need to travel back in time, not just a few years, but decades, to the very roots of the problem. We're going deep into the heart of Nigeria's history to uncover the individuals and the events that lit the first spark. Let's rewind to the late 1970s and early 1980s. Nigeria was under military rule, and the political landscape was, to put it mildly, turbulent. In the old Sokoto state, which now includes modern-day Sokoto, Kebbi, and Zamfara states, a political rivalry was brewing. This wasn't just any political disagreement. It was a power struggle that would have unforeseen and devastating consequences. On one side was Shehu Shagari, who would become Nigeria's first democratically elected president in the Second Republic. On the other was a prominent local politician, a man of considerable influence and ambition. As the 1979 elections approached, this politician, feeling marginalized and outmaneuvered within his own party, made a fateful decision. He broke away and created a new political faction. To bolster his support and intimidate his rivals, he needed muscle. He needed enforcers, and so he turned to the Fulani herdsmen. He allegedly armed them, not for cattle rustling, but for political. These young men, known for their resilience and knowledge of the terrain, became his private militia. Their job was to disrupt rallies, intimidate voters, and ensure their patrons' political dominance. One of the key figures recruited was a man named Buhari Doji. His name, which translates to Buhari of the Bush, would later become infamous. At this stage, it was purely political. The arms were for intimidation during the election season. But what happens when the elections are over and these young, armed men are no longer needed by their political sponsor? He had opened Pandora's box, and now he couldn't close it. The politician reportedly tried to disarm them, but it was too late. They had tasted power, they had weapons, and they weren't going to give them up. This is the critical turning point. The politically motivated thugs, now abandoned by their master, turned their weapons onto the very society they were supposed to be a part of. They started with small-scale crimes. Stealing cattle wasn't new, but now it was being done with sophisticated weapons. They knew the routes, the markets, and the communities. Buhari Doji, the former political enforcer, became one of the first and most notorious bandit kingpins. He established a reign of terror in Zamfara states, leading a group that started with cattle rustling and quickly escalated to kidnapping and village raids. The transition was seamless. The skills they learned as political thugs, intimidation, organization, and violence, were perfectly transferable to organized crime. The dense forests of Zamfara, which they knew like the back of their hands, became their sanctuary and their base of operations. The state, at the time, failed to grasp the magnitude of the threat. It was dismissed as simple cattle rustling, a pastoralist issue. But it was much more. It was the birth of an insurgency, As Buharin Daji's empire of crime grew, so did his legend. He was seen by some as a rebel, a product of state neglect and political betrayal. He mentored other young men, creating a domino effect. One of his most infamous protégés was a man named Kundu. Kundu learned the trade from Daji, and soon he too became a formidable bandit leader, carving out his own territory. The cycle continued. Kundu in turn mentored another young man, someone whose name is now synonymous with the horror of modern banditry, Belo Turji. Each generation of bandit leaders became more ruthless, more organized, and more ambitious than the last. What started as political thuggery with a few dozen men had morphed into a complex network of thousands, controlling vast swaths of territory. The motives also evolved. While the initial grievance might have been abandonment by a political godfather, it quickly became about economics. The illegal gold mines in Zamfara became a new source of funding. Kidnapping for ransom became a multi-million-dollar industry. They weren't just criminals. They were becoming a shadow state, levying taxes on villagers and controlling local economies. So, when we talk about the founders of banditry, we can't just point to one person. It's a chain of command, a dark mentorship program. It starts with a politician's desperate bid for power, who armed men like Buharin Daji for his own ends. Daji, once abandoned, becomes a full-fledged kingpin and mentors Kundu. Kundu then trains Belo Turji. It's a direct lineage of violence passed down from one leader to the next. Buharin Daji was eventually killed in 2018, not by security forces, but by one of his own lieutenants in an internal power struggle. But his death didn't end the problem. It only created a power vacuum, leading to even more fragmentation and violence as his underlings fought for control. The monster he helped create had outgrown him. The story of the origins of banditry is a tragic lesson in unintended consequences. It's a reminder that when political ambition overrides public safety, the results can be catastrophic. It shows how a small group of armed political thugs, when left unchecked, can evolve into a full-blown security crisis that threatens the stability of an entire nation. The men behind the masks of banditry weren't born monsters. They were created, molded by a toxic mix of political manipulation, state neglect, and economic desperation. Understanding this origin story is not about making excuses for their heinous crimes. It's about understanding the root cause, so we can finally find a lasting solution. The problem won't be solved by just targeting the foot soldiers in the forest. It requires addressing the political and economic systems that created them in the first place. The chain of events is clear. A politician's gamble, the arming of youths, the betrayal, the transformation into criminal kingpins, and the mentorship that spawned new generations of terror. That is the true, unfiltered story of how banditry began in Nigeria. It's a dark chapter in our history, but one we must understand to have any hope of closing it for good. Thank you for watching. If you found this investigation insightful, please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next deep dive. What are your thoughts on this? Let us know in the comments below. Stay safe and stay informed.